Tonight we're drifting back to a time when sultans ruled empires. Janissaries marched through ancient streets, and the Ottoman banner cast a shadow from Budapest to Baghdad. You think modern politics are chaotic? Wait until you hear about palace coups, lost provinces, and sultans who ruled from golden thrones but couldn't sleep at night. If you're into slow-burning history tales, a like or follow means the world. I know you're trying to fall asleep, and I'm about to tell you about wars, intrigue, and the slow unraveling of an empire. But trust me, it's worth it. So take a deep breath, pull the covers close, and let your mind wander back through the centuries. Welcome to the long night of the Ottoman Empire. What do you call an empire that lasted twice as long as ancient Rome, conquered 3 continents, and changed the course of world history? The Ottomans, and their story is more incredible than you could imagine. We're unveiling the entire 623-year saga of the Ottoman Empire, from tribal origins to global domination. Get ready for a historical roller coaster that will leave you speechless. The roots of the Ottoman Empire can be traced back to the Kai tribe, a branch of the Oghuz Turks. These nomadic people hailed from the vast steppes of Central Asia, known for their fierce warrior culture and military prowess. In the 13th century, as the Mongol hordes swept across Asia, the Kai, like many other tribes, were forced to flee their ancestral lands. Led by Ertugrul Ghazi, the Kai made their way into Anatolia, eventually settling near the town of Saint. This region, on the fringes of the Byzantine Empire, would become the cradle of Ottoman power. At the time, the dominant force in Anatolia was the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, and the Kai initially pledged their allegiance to these Turkish rulers. However, the political landscape of Anatolia was in flux. In 1243, the Seljuks suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Mongols in the Battle of Keksi-Dak. This event marked the beginning of the end for Seljuk power in the region, creating a vacuum that smaller Turkish beyliks began to fill. It was in this environment that Ertugrul's son Osman rose to prominence. Around 1280, Osman became the leader of the Kai. He was ambitious and capable. As Seljuk influence declined, Osman began expanding his territory, pushing into Byzantine lands. A key factor in the early Ottoman success was the adoption of the Ghazi identity, warriors of Islam. This identity attracted fighters from surrounding tribes and even Christian lands. The legend of Osman's dream became a powerful symbol of Ottoman destiny. According to the tale, Osman dreamed of a great tree growing from his chest, its branches spreading across the world. This vision was interpreted as a divine sign of future greatness. While the dream inspired generations, it was Osman's leadership and action that truly brought the Ottoman Empire into being. The rise of the Ottoman Empire hinged on a balance of military strength and political strategy. Osman I, also known as Osman Ghazi, took the reins from his father Ertugrul and expanded their small principality. His charisma and ambition laid the foundation for an empire that would endure for centuries and reshape the future of Anatolia and beyond. In 1299, Osman declared independence from the crumbling Seljuk Sultanate. This bold move marked the birth of the Ottoman Empire. No longer subordinate, the Ottomans began expanding into weakened Byzantine frontier towns. Guided by the Ghazi warrior ethos, they targeted strategic locations that would secure their dominance in the region. The captures of Bilchik Yeniseyir and Inegöl were pivotal. These victories expanded Ottoman territory and gave them strategic footholds for further conquests. The Ghazi ideology, fusing religious fervor with military ambition, drew warriors from far and wide, eager to fight for both Islam and personal glory under the Ottoman banner. As Ottoman power grew, Osman recognized the need for governance, not just warfare. He established Yeniseyir as the first Ottoman administrative center. This allowed for centralized management of conquered lands, demonstrating Osman's vision that military success must be paired with effective rule to create a lasting empire. One of the key strengths of the early Ottoman military was its flexibility and inclusivity. Osman developed a system that incorporated both Turkish nomads and Christian mercenaries. This diverse and adaptable force not only enhanced military capabilities, but also laid the groundwork for the multicultural nature of the future empire. Perhaps the most significant campaign of Osman's reign was the Siege of Bursa. Though Osman initiated it, The city fell in 1326 under the leadership of his son, Orhan Gazi. This long and determined campaign showcased the Ottomans' growing ability to conduct sustained operations against well-defended Byzantine cities, proving their rising strength. When Orhan took power in 1326, the Ottoman state stood at a critical turning point. The capture of Bursa was a milestone, transforming the Ottomans from a frontier principality into a structured and ambitious power. Bursa became the first official capital of the empire, marking the Ottomans' shift from nomadic roots to a centralized state. Orhan's rule introduced many foundational changes. He minted the first Ottoman currency, the silver aki, which standardized trade and taxation. To manage growing territories, Orhan established a central bureaucracy. These reforms laid the foundation for an enduring system of governance and marked the beginning of the empire's institutional maturity. Orhan focused his military campaigns on Byzantine territory in northwestern Anatolia. In 1331, his forces captured Nicaea, known to the Turks as Iznik, once a Byzantine stronghold and a symbol of Christian resistance. The city's fall signaled a serious blow to Byzantine power and cemented the Ottomans' control in the region. By 1337, Orhan's forces captured the important port city of Nicomedia, modern-day Izmit. This victory gave the Ottomans access to the Sea of Marmara, expanding their reach and solidifying control over northwestern Anatolia. With this conquest, the Ottomans gained not only territory, but also a strategic maritime position. In 1354, a powerful earthquake damaged the Byzantine fortress of Gallipoli. The Ottomans quickly seized the opportunity and took control of the peninsula. This event marked their first permanent foothold in Europe, opening a new front for expansion into the Balkans and dramatically shifting the empire's trajectory. To support expansion, Orhan introduced major military reforms. One of the most notable was the creation of the Janissary Corps. This elite infantry unit was made up of Christian youths converted to Islam through the Devshirme system. Trained from childhood, they became the Sultan's loyal and professional standing army. When Murad I ascended the throne in 1362, he recognized that the Ottomans' future lay in the Balkans. His first major conquest was Adrianople, modern Idorn, in 1369. Situated in southeastern Europe, the city became the new Ottoman capital, reinforcing the empire's European focus and its commitment to long-term expansion. Murad I also institutionalized the Devshirme system, systematically recruiting Christian boys from conquered territories. These youths were educated, converted, and trained to serve either in the Janissary Corps or in the Ottoman bureaucracy. This system provided the empire with a steady stream of highly skilled and loyal servants. Murad's military skill was put to the test at the Battle of Maritsa in 1371. A coalition of Serbian nobles attempted to halt Ottoman expansion but were decisively defeated. The victory cemented Ottoman dominance in the Balkans and opened the way for further conquests throughout southeastern Europe. Following his victory, Murad implemented a strategy of imposing vassalage on Balkan states, rather than pursuing direct conquest. These client states paid tribute to the Ottomans while maintaining limited autonomy. This approach expanded Ottoman influence without overextending their military or administration. The height of Murad's reign came in 1389 with the Battle of Kosovo. Ottoman forces faced a coalition led by Serbian Prince Lazar. The battle was fierce and costly for both sides. Murad was assassinated during the fighting, but the Ottomans emerged victorious, and Serbian resistance was effectively broken. Despite Murad's death, the Battle of Kosovo solidified Ottoman control in the region. The Serbian-led alliance was shattered, and the Ottomans dominated the Balkans for centuries. Murad's reign was transformative, expanding the empire's reach and shifting its center of power westward into Europe. Murad introduced critical administrative reforms to support his growing empire. He divided conquered lands into timurs, military fiefs granted to cavalry officers in return for service. This system provided the Ottomans with a self-sustaining army and an efficient way to govern newly acquired territories. When Bayezid I took the throne in 1389, he inherited a powerful and expanding empire. Unlike his predecessors, Bayezid launched rapid and aggressive campaigns. His military skill earned him the nickname Yildirim, or the Thunderbolts. Under his command, the Ottomans swept through the Balkans and Anatolia with remarkable speed. Bayezid brought many Turkish principalities in Anatolia under Ottoman rule, consolidating control over the region. He also launched a blockade of Constantinople in 1394, attempting to starve the city into submission. Though ultimately unsuccessful, this siege marked a bold statement of Ottoman ambition and strength. The Ottoman threat alarmed Christian Europe. In 1396, a crusading army led by Hungarian King Sigismund confronted Bayezid at the Battle of Nicopolis. The Ottomans achieved a crushing victory, shattering hopes of halting their advance and demonstrating their dominance over a divided Europe. Bayezid's reign also saw administrative centralization. He streamlined governance and expanded the Janissary Corps, declaring himself Sultan of Rum. Bayezid positioned the Ottoman Empire as the true heir to Roman and Byzantine legacies, a symbolic move that underscored his imperial ambitions. But Bayezid's bold expansionism brought new dangers. In 1402, the empire collided with the rising power of Timur, a conqueror from Central Asia. At the Battle of Ankara, Bayezid's forces were overwhelmed. The Sultan was captured, and the once mighty Ottoman army was decimated, plunging the empire into chaos. Bayezid's capture at the Battle of Ankara marked a dark chapter in Ottoman history. The once dominant sultan died in captivity in 1403. His defeat shattered the illusion of Ottoman invincibility and triggered a violent civil war among his sons. The centralized power he had built collapsed almost overnight. The empire descended into chaos during a period known as the Ottoman Interregnum, lasting from 1402 to 1413. Bayezid's sons, Suleiman, Isa Musa, and Mehmed, each claimed the throne. The empire fractured into rival territories, and brutal battles between the brothers threatened to destroy the Ottoman legacy. Timur, having defeated the Ottomans, restored autonomy to several Anatolian beyliks, further weakening Ottoman cohesion. Former vassals in the Balkans declared independence. The once mighty empire teetered on the brink of disintegration as resources were drained and public order deteriorated across the realm. The conflict took a decisive turn when Mehmed Çelebi, the youngest of Bayezid's sons, gained the upper hand. With strategic alliances and military victories, he gradually defeated his brothers. In 1413, he emerged as the sole ruler and restored a measure of unity, becoming Sultan Mehmed I. Mehmed I faced the enormous task of rebuilding a fractured empire. He re-established control over rebellious provinces and reinstated central authority. His reign marked a period of recovery and stabilization. Though his rule was brief, it laid the groundwork for the Ottoman resurgence that would soon follow. The Ottoman state still bore the scars of civil war when Murad II, son of Mehmed I, ascended the throne in 1421. Immediately he faced threats from both internal factions and external rivals. His reign would be defined by efforts to consolidate power, suppress rebellions, and re-establish Ottoman authority across the empire. One of Murad's first challenges came from a pretender supported by the Byzantines, who hoped to exploit Ottoman instability. Murad swiftly defeated the uprising, securing his position. He then turned his attention to the Balkans, where several vassal states had grown restless and sought independence from Ottoman control. Murad led campaigns into Serbia, Wallachia, and Albania, reaffirming Ottoman dominance. He implemented policies to stabilize the frontier and impose tribute on rebellious territories. His efforts helped to re-establish the Balkans as a vital region within the empire, while keeping powerful European neighbors in check. The Battle of Varna in 1444 marked a turning point in Murad's reign. A coalition of Christian forces, led by Poland and Hungary, sought to drive the Ottomans out of Europe. Murad's forces achieved a decisive victory. The defeat of the Crusaders reaffirmed Ottoman strength and discouraged further European intervention. For a time, later in his reign, Murad faced resistance from Albanian leader Skanderbeg, whose guerrilla tactics challenged Ottoman control. Though Murad struggled to defeat him, the Sultan's broader efforts at consolidation were largely successful. When Murad died in 1451, he left behind a stronger, more stable empire for his son, Mehmed II. Mehmed II, known to history as Mehmed the Conqueror, took the throne in 1451, at just 19 years old. He inherited an empire strengthened by his father, but still facing threats. His ambition was clear from the beginning. He sought to accomplish what no Ottoman ruler had done before, the conquest of Constantinople. Understanding the importance of controlling the Bosporus, Mehmed ordered the construction of a massive fortress on its European side. Completed in just 4 months, Rumeli Hisari allowed the Ottomans to control naval traffic and cut off aid to Constantinople from the Black Sea, isolating the city. To break the city's formidable walls, Mehmed enlisted a Hungarian engineer named Orban, who built enormous cannons capable of hurling 600-kilogram stone balls. These weapons were revolutionary, and their deployment marked a new era in siege warfare, giving the Ottomans a powerful advantage. In April 1453, the conqueror launched his long-awaited assault. For 53 days, Ottoman forces battered Constantinople with relentless cannon fire. The defenders, led by Emperor Constantine XI, fought valiantly, but the city's isolation and the weight of constant bombardment pushed them to the brink. On May 29, 1453, Ottoman troops breached the walls and poured into the city. Fierce street fighting ensued, and by nightfall, Constantinople had fallen. The ancient capital of the Byzantine Empire was now in Ottoman hands. The conqueror's dream had been realized, and history had been rewritten. With Constantinople conquered, Mehmed the Conqueror began transforming it into the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. He encouraged resettlement by inviting people from across his realm, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, to repopulate the city. His goal was to restore Constantinople as a thriving center of commerce and culture. One of Mehmed's first acts was converting Hagia Sophia into a mosque. Though symbolic of Islamic victory, he also protected Christian and Jewish communities, recognizing their importance to the city's revival. This policy of pragmatic tolerance became a hallmark of Ottoman governance for generations. The conqueror focused on expanding the empire further. He launched campaigns in the Balkans, capturing Serbia in 1459, and the Morea in 1460. In 1461, he brought the Empire of Trebizond under Ottoman control. These conquests eliminated the last remnants of Byzantine rule and secured Ottoman dominance in the region. In the east, Mehmed consolidated power by defeating rival Turkish principalities and asserting control over Anatolia. He also established ties with the Crimean Khanate, extending Ottoman influence into the Black Sea region. These moves helped unify the empire and protect its frontiers from regional threats. Mehmed's reign was not only defined by military conquest. He reformed the legal system, issuing a comprehensive law code that balanced Islamic principles with imperial administration. His patronage of architecture, literature, and science transformed Istanbul into a flourishing capital worthy of an empire. After Mehmed's death in 1481, his son Bayezid II ascended the throne. Though not as aggressive as his father, Bayezid focused on internal stability. He improved infrastructure, expanded education, and welcomed Sephardic Jews fleeing the Spanish Inquisition, enriching Ottoman society with new skills and traditions. Bayezid's reign was largely peaceful, but he faced challenges from within. His brother Sem rebelled and sought support from European powers. Though the rebellion failed, it exposed vulnerabilities in dynastic succession. Sem's exile became a diplomatic pawn in European-Ottoman relations for years. Bayezid II promoted religious tolerance, maintaining the millet system that allowed communities to govern themselves under their own religious laws. This structure helped preserve stability in a diverse empire and strengthened the loyalty of non-Muslim subjects by granting them relative autonomy. Despite his domestic focus, Bayezid supported naval expansion in the eastern Mediterranean. He strengthened the Ottoman fleet, which began to challenge Venetian and Portuguese dominance. These early maritime efforts would later set the stage for the empire's rise as a naval power in the 16th century. Bayezid's reign ended in turmoil as a succession struggle emerged between his sons. In 1512, he was forced to abdicate in favor of his son Selim I, known as Selim the Grim. The transition marked the end of a relatively calm era and the beginning of a new phase, defined by bold conquests and centralization. Selim I's reign began with a brutal consolidation of power. He eliminated potential rivals, including many members of his own family, to secure his rule. Known for his stern demeanor and uncompromising policies, Selim earned the nickname the Grim. His reign was short but transformative. Selim turned his attention eastward, confronting the powerful Safavid Empire of Persia. In 1514, he defeated Shah Ismail at the Battle of Chaldiran. The victory secured eastern Anatolia for the Ottomans and dealt a major blow to Safavid prestige, establishing Sunni dominance in the region. Following his triumph in the east, Selim marched south and in 1517 conquered the Mamluk Sultanate, bringing Egypt, Syria, and the Hijaz under Ottoman control. These conquests gave the Ottomans access to the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, dramatically enhancing the empire's Islamic legitimacy. With the Mamluk defeat, Selim assumed the title of Caliph, positioning the Ottomans as both political and spiritual leaders of the Muslim world. This symbolic shift elevated the empire's prestige and laid the foundation for its emerging identity as a global Islamic power. Selim's reign, though lasting only 8 years, reshaped the Ottoman Empire. He expanded its territory by more than 70% and centralized religious authority. When he died in 1520, he left a vast, energized empire to his son, one of history's most renowned rulers, Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman the Magnificent inherited a vast and powerful empire in 1520. His reign would become the pinnacle of Ottoman glory. Known in the Islamic world as Kanuni or the Lawgiver, Suleiman was a master of both governance and warfare. His leadership blended military brilliance with a deep commitment to justice. Suleiman's military campaigns extended the empire's borders further than ever before. In 1521, he captured Belgrade. The following year he took Rhodes after a long and bloody siege. These victories solidified Ottoman control in the Balkans and the eastern Mediterranean, striking fear into Europe. One of Suleiman's most famous victories came at the Battle of Mohacs in 1526. His army crushed the Hungarian forces, and King Louis II was killed. The battle opened the door for Ottoman influence in Central Europe, and led to the eventual occupation of much of Hungary by Ottoman forces. Suleiman twice laid siege to Vienna, in 1529 and 1532, though both attempts failed. Still, these campaigns demonstrated Ottoman strength at the heart of Europe. His ambition seemed limitless, and his court in Istanbul became a center of art, culture, and intellectual life unmatched in the Islamic world. While conquering abroad, Suleiman also governed at home with profound reforms. He overhauled the legal system, harmonizing religious and secular laws. His code, or Konen, protected the rights of citizens, regulated land use, and ensured tax fairness. It endured long after his reign ended. Suleiman's court became a beacon of culture and sophistication. He patronized poets, architects, and scholars. Under his rule, Mimar Sinan emerged as one of the greatest architects in history, designing masterpieces like the Suleimani Mosque, which still dominates Istanbul's skyline today. Despite his successes, Suleiman's later years were marked by personal tragedy and political intrigue. His beloved wife, Hurrem Sultan, wielded great influence, as did his Grand Vizier, Rustam Pasha. Succession disputes among his sons led to the execution of Prince Mustafa, his most capable heir. Suleiman died in 1566 during a campaign in Hungary. His death was kept secret for weeks to ensure a smooth transition of power. He had ruled for 46 years, the longest of any Ottoman sultan. Under his leadership, the empire reached its territorial and cultural zenith. After Suleiman's death, his son Selim II assumed the throne. Known as Selim the Sought for his indulgent lifestyle, he lacked his father's military ambition. While the empire remained powerful, Selim delegated much of his authority to his advisors, especially the Grand Vizier, Sekalu Mehmed Pasha. During Selim II's reign, the Ottomans captured Cyprus from the Venetians in 1571. However, the same year saw a major naval defeat at the Battle of Lepanto, where a Christian alliance dealt a heavy blow to the Ottoman fleet. The loss was symbolic, though the empire quickly rebuilt its navy. Selim II died in 1574, and his son Murad III ascended the throne. Murad's reign marked the beginning of a gradual decline in Ottoman administrative efficiency. He was deeply involved in palace rituals and relied heavily on court advisors and his powerful mother, Nurbanu Sultan, for governance. Despite internal stagnation, Murad continued military campaigns. The Ottoman-Safavid War from 1578 to 1590 resulted in territorial gains in the Caucasus. However, these victories came at great cost, draining the treasury and exposing weaknesses in the empire's administrative and military systems. Murad's court was known for its opulence and artistic patronage. Literature, music, and miniature painting flourished under his rule. However, corruption and nepotism became widespread. The devshirme system declined, and janissaries gained increasing political influence, often challenging the sultan's authority. Murad died in 1595 and was succeeded by his son Mehmed III. In a brutal display of power consolidation, Mehmed ordered the execution of his 19 brothers upon ascending the throne. This act, though horrific, was seen as a method of preventing future succession crises within the imperial family. Mehmed III continued the war against the Habsburgs in Hungary. The campaign culminated in the Battle of Kerestes in 1596, where the Ottomans secured a costly victory. Despite the success, internal problems mounted, and governance suffered from weak leadership and rampant corruption. Mehmed III died in 1603 and was succeeded by his son Ahmed I, who came to the throne at just 13 years old. His reign marked the beginning of efforts to reform and stabilize the empire. Though young Ahmed displayed maturity and sought to curb the violent succession practices of his predecessors. One of Ahmed I's most enduring legacies was the construction of the Sultan Ahmed Mosque, better known as the Blue Mosque. Completed in 1616, the mosque stood opposite Hagia Sophia and symbolized the fusion of Ottoman imperial identity with religious devotion. It remains an iconic landmark in Istanbul. Ahmed's reign saw peace with Austria in 1606 through the Treaty of Shephet-Torak, ending long-standing hostilities. The treaty recognized the Habsburg Emperor as equal to the Ottoman Sultan, a symbolic blow to Ottoman prestige but a necessary compromise given military and economic fatigue. Ahmed I broke with tradition by not executing his brother Mustafa upon accession. This decision set a new precedent and allowed the eventual rise of Mustafa I after Ahmed's death in 1617. However, Mustafa's mental instability made his reign short-lived and chaotic, leading to his deposition. The early 17th century was a time of instability, with frequent changes in sultans and the growing influence of the janissaries and palace factions. These power struggles weakened central authority and marked the beginning of what historians call the Ottoman stagnation period, a long, uneven decline. Osman II came to the throne in 1618 at the age of 14. He sought to restore imperial authority and reduce the power of the janissaries. After a failed military campaign against Poland, he blamed the janissaries for the defeat and began planning reforms to curb their influence and modernize the army. Osman's bold plans included creating a new army loyal only to the Sultan, but he moved too quickly. In 1622, the janissaries rebelled, stormed the palace, and deposed him. He was brutally murdered, strangled with a bowstring, becoming one of the first sultans to be killed by his own soldiers. The chaos following Osman II's death led to the brief restoration of Mustafa I. His erratic behavior again destabilized the empire, prompting his second deposition. In 1623, Murad IV, only 11 years old, was placed on the throne under the regency of his mother, Kaksum Sultan. Murad IV eventually took full control and imposed strict reforms. Known for his personal discipline and harsh punishments, he banned alcohol, tobacco, and coffee. Despite his authoritarian rule, he restored order and reasserted central authority, making him one of the stronger rulers of the century. Murad IV also proved a capable military leader. He led a successful campaign against the Safavids and recaptured Baghdad in 1638. The Treaty of Zuhab the following year solidified Ottoman control of Iraq. Murad died in 1640, leaving behind a more stable empire but no clear successor. After Murad IV's death, his brother Ibrahim ascended the throne. Known to history as Ibrahim the Mad, his mental instability and erratic behavior led to disastrous decisions. He became heavily influenced by court factions and concubines, especially one known as Turhan Hati's Sultan. Ibrahim's reign was marked by lavish spending, paranoia, and arbitrary purges. He devalued the currency and drained the treasury with expensive gifts and architectural projects. His eccentric behavior alienated the court and military, leading many to question his fitness to rule. In 1648, after years of mismanagement, a coalition of janissaries, scholars, and court officials deposed Ibrahim. He was imprisoned and later executed, ending one of the most unstable reigns in Ottoman history. His young son Mehmet IV was placed on the throne amid widespread unrest. Mehmet IV's early reign was dominated by palace politics and the regency of his mother Turhan Sultan. Eventually, stability returned with the appointment of KPRL Mehmet Pasha as Grand Vizier in 1656. The Köprülü family would play a crucial role in reviving the Ottoman state. Under KPRL leadership, the empire saw administrative and military revitalization. Corruption was punished, taxes were reformed, and the navy was strengthened. These reforms helped repel Venetian forces and reassert Ottoman dominance in the Mediterranean during the Cretan War. Mehmet IV ruled for nearly 40 years, longer than most Ottoman sultans. He became known as Mehmet the Hunter, due to his passion for hunting and outdoor life. While he delegated authority to his viziers, this allowed experienced administrators to govern effectively during his reign. The Köprülü era continued with Köprülü Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, who led campaigns in Hungary and against the Venetians. The empire captured key territories and fortified its frontiers. Despite these successes, tensions with Austria and Poland simmered, setting the stage for future conflicts. In 1683, the Ottomans launched a massive campaign into Central Europe and laid siege to Vienna for a second time. Led by Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha, the siege failed when a coalition of European forces arrived and routed the Ottoman army at the Battle of Vienna. The defeat at Vienna marked a turning point. European powers formed the Holy League, and the Ottomans began losing ground in Hungary, Transylvania, and the Balkans. The long war drained resources, and internal dissent grew, weakening the empire's control over its provinces. In 1687, amid mounting unrest and military losses, Mehmet IV was deposed. His successors struggled to reverse the tide of decline. The empire entered a period of military defeats and internal strife, prompting many historians to refer to the late 17th century as the start of a prolonged stagnation. Suleiman II took the throne in 1687 but faced immense challenges. The empire was at war, the treasury was depleted, and morale was low. Though he lacked the charisma of past rulers, Suleiman supported military reforms and relied heavily on competent viziers to stabilize the state. During Suleiman II's reign, the Ottomans fought to regain lost territories. His efforts, though limited by time, he ruled only for years, helped set the stage for a partial recovery. He died in 1691 and was succeeded by his brother Ahmed II, who continued the fight in the Balkans. Ahmed II's reign saw continued conflict with the Holy League. Despite some battlefield successes, the empire remained on the defensive. In 1695, Mustafa II became sultan and sought to revive Ottoman fortunes through direct leadership of military campaigns, a rare move for later sultans. Mustafa II initially achieved victories, but the tide turned against the Ottomans. The war culminated in the Treaty of Karlowitz in 1699, a major blow to Ottoman prestige. The empire ceded Hungary and other territories, marking the first significant loss of Muslim lands to Christian powers. The Treaty of Karlowitz ended the Great Turkish War but exposed the limits of Ottoman expansion. For the first time, European powers dictated terms to the empire. The psychological impact was profound, forcing the Ottomans to confront a new era of European dominance and Ottoman adaptation. Mustafa II was deposed in 1703 during the Edirne event, a rebellion sparked by political dissatisfaction and military unrest. His brother Ahmed III ascended the throne and ushered in a period known as the Tulip Era, a time of cultural flourishing, Western influence, and delicate diplomacy. The Tulip Era, named for the elite's fascination with tulips, saw the rise of literature, art, and architecture influenced by Europe. Istanbul became a center of refinement and leisure. Grand Vizier Neveva Hurli de Modin Ibrahim Pasha played a key role in promoting modernization and diplomacy. During Ahmed III's reign, the Ottomans fought Russia in the Pruth River Campaign and achieved a rare military success. The 1711 Treaty of Pruth restored some prestige. However, later conflicts with Austria and Venice led to territorial losses in the Treaty of Passarowitz in 1718. Despite military setbacks, the Tulip Era is remembered for its optimism and reform. Printing presses were introduced, embassies were established in Europe, and efforts were made to adopt new technologies. But critics saw the extravagance as a sign of corruption and decay. In 1730, a revolt led by Patrona Hillel overthrew Ahmed III. The uprising was fueled by economic hardship and resentment toward elite excesses. Ahmed was forced to abdicate, and the Tulip Era came to an end. His nephew Mahmud I became Sultan, facing a far more cautious and turbulent era. Mahmud I's reign was marked by efforts to restore order after the Patrona Hillel revolt. Though initially dependent on military factions, he gradually asserted control and focused on rebuilding the state. His rule brought relative stability during a time of European expansion and internal uncertainty. Mahmud I continued wars with Persia and Russia. The Ottoman-Persian War of 1730–35 ended with the Treaty of Constantinople, securing gains in the Caucasus. In Europe, the Ottomans managed to hold their ground, but the empire increasingly relied on diplomacy to maintain its territorial integrity. The mid-18th century was a period of fragile equilibrium. While the Ottomans held off European encroachments, their military technology and administrative practices lagged behind. Reform attempts were cautious and limited, often blocked by conservative elites wary of Western influence. Osman III, Mahmud's brother, ruled briefly from 1754 to 1757. His reclusive nature and suspicion of the court led to minimal reforms. After his death, Mustafa III ascended the throne. He recognized the empire's weaknesses and sought military modernization, particularly in artillery and engineering. Mustafa III enlisted European advisors and attempted to reform the Janissary court. Though his efforts faced resistance, they laid groundwork for future changes. He also worked to centralize power and improve tax collection. His reign represented a turning point toward more proactive Ottoman reform. Mustafa III died in 1774, and his brother Abdulhamid I took the throne. His reign began in the shadow of a devastating defeat to Russia. The Treaty of Kaçanarka signed that year was one of the most humiliating in Ottoman history, granting Russia access to the Black Sea and protection rights over Orthodox Christians. The treaty exposed the empire's vulnerabilities and emboldened European powers. Abdulhamid I faced internal unrest, economic decline, and military weakness. Despite these challenges, he promoted some military reforms and tried to strengthen central authority. Though with limited success, Abdulhamid I also focused on public works and education. He supported the construction of schools and charitable institutions. His pious image and efforts to reform the empire earned him respect, but he struggled to reverse the systemic decay that plagued the Ottoman state in the late 18th century. Abdulhamid died in 1789 and was succeeded by his nephew Selim III. Selim recognized the empire's dire state and launched ambitious reforms known as the Nizam-i-Jadid, or New Order. These included a new army trained in European methods and efforts to modernize the administration and economy. Selim III's reforms faced stiff opposition from conservative elites, especially the Janissaries. While he managed some early successes, resistance grew. In 1807, a Janissary-led revolt deposed him. He was imprisoned and later killed. His vision, though cut short, inspired future reformers within the empire. After Selim III's death, Mustafa IV briefly ruled but failed to restore stability. He executed Selim to prevent his return and targeted reformist allies. However, his reign was short-lived. In 1808, reformist forces led by Alemdar Mustafa Pasha deposed Mustafa IV and installed Mahmud II as Sultan. Mahmud II would become one of the most transformative rulers in Ottoman history. He understood that survival required modernization. His early years were spent consolidating power and managing tensions between reformers and conservatives, especially the entrenched Janissary court. In 1826, Mahmud II acted decisively. He ordered the destruction of the Janissaries in an event known as the Auspicious Incident. Thousands were killed, and the corps was disbanded. This paved the way for broader military and administrative reforms based on European models. Mahmud's reforms extended to education, bureaucracy, and dress codes. He established new schools, streamlined the civil service, and adopted Western-style uniforms for officials and soldiers. His goal was to create a centralized, efficient state that could compete with European powers. Despite internal reforms, Mahmud II faced external crises. Greece fought for and gained independence with European support. The empire's inability to suppress the Greek revolt exposed its military weaknesses and reliance on foreign powers, especially Russia and Britain. The loss of Greece in the 1830s signaled a shift in Ottoman relations with Europe. While Mahmud II pursued internal reforms, European powers increasingly interfered in Ottoman affairs. Meanwhile, Egypt's governor, Muhammad Ali Pasha, grew more powerful and ambitious. Muhammad Ali sought independence for Egypt and expanded his control into Syria and Arabia. In 1839, conflict erupted between Egypt and the empire. Ottoman forces suffered major defeats. Mahmud II died that same year, leaving a precarious situation to his young son Abdulmecid I. Abdulmecid I inherited a fragmented empire in crisis. His reign began with the Tanzimat, a sweeping series of reforms aimed at modernizing the state and securing European support. The Tanzimat Edict of 1839 promised equality before the law for all subjects, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. The Tanzimat reforms introduced new legal codes, modern schools, and administrative restructuring. They sought to centralize authority, improve tax collection, and curtail corruption. While well-intentioned, many reforms faced local resistance and lacked full implementation. Abdulmecid also faced external pressure. The Crimean War erupted in 1853 as Russia sought influence over Orthodox Christians in the Balkans. Britain and France sided with the Ottomans to contain Russian expansion. The war ended in 1856 with an Ottoman victory, but at great financial cost. Though victorious in the Crimean War, the Ottomans became increasingly dependent on European loans. Debt mounted, and financial mismanagement plagued the empire. Meanwhile, nationalist movements in the Balkans gained momentum, threatening the empire's territorial integrity. Abdulmecid's death in 1861 brought his brother Abdulaziz to power. He continued Tanzimat reforms and expanded the navy, making it the third largest in the world. However, military spending and opulent palaces drained the treasury, exacerbating economic woes. Abdulaziz's reign grew unpopular due to rising debt, inflation, and court extravagance. In 1876, amid protests and political pressure, he was deposed by his ministers. Days later, he was found dead under mysterious circumstances, officially ruled a suicide but still debated by historians. Murad V briefly succeeded him but suffered a mental breakdown and was deposed after just 3 months. His younger brother Abdulhamid II then ascended the throne. Hopes were high for reform, and the first Ottoman constitution was proclaimed in the same year, 1876. The constitution promised a parliament and limited monarchy, but war with Russia in 1877 derailed reform. The empire suffered major losses, and Abdulhamid suspended the constitution in 1878, dissolving parliament and beginning an era of autocratic rule known as the Hamidian Era. During the Hamidian Era, Abdulhamid II ruled with an iron grip. He centralized power, expanded the secret police, and suppressed dissent. Despite his authoritarianism, he invested in education, telegraph lines, and railroads, including the famous Hejaz Railway linking Damascus to Medina. Abdulhamid positioned himself as the Caliph of all Muslims, using pan-Islamism to counter European encroachment. He hoped to unite Muslims under his authority and resist imperialist ambitions. While the idea gained support abroad, it did little to solve internal unrest. In the Balkans, nationalist uprisings escalated. Serbia, Montenegro, Romania, and Bulgaria declared independence or autonomy. The empire's grasp on Europe weakened, and waves of Muslim refugees from the Balkans fled into Anatolia, straining Ottoman resources and reshaping demographics. In 1908, the Young Turk Revolution forced Abdülhamid to restore the constitution and reconvene parliament. The Committee of Union and Progress, a reformist group, gained influence and pushed for modernization. Abdülhamid was deposed in 1909 and replaced by Mehmet V. Mehmet V served largely as a figurehead, while the Committee of Union and Progress held real power. The empire faced instability and military decline. In 1911, Italy seized Libya from Ottoman control. The following year, the First Balkan War erupted, resulting in the loss of nearly all remaining European territories. The First Balkan War devastated the Ottoman Empire. Greece, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Montenegro pushed Ottoman forces out of most of the Balkans. The Second Balkan War in 1913 briefly allowed the Ottomans to retake eastern Thrace, including Edirne, but the damage was already done. Ethnic tensions surged, and political chaos deepened. That the Committee of Union and Progress, now dominated by a triumvirate known as the Three Pashas, Enver, Talat, and Semil, tightened their grip on power. Their nationalist and militarist agenda steered the empire toward an uncertain future. In 1914, World War I erupted. The Ottomans joined the Central Powers alongside Germany and Austria-Hungary. The decision was influenced by anti-Russian sentiment, German promises of support, and a desire to reclaim lost prestige. It would prove catastrophic. The Ottomans opened multiple fronts against Russia and the Caucasus, the British in Mesopotamia and Arabia, and the Allies at Gallipoli, while they scored a major victory at Gallipoli in 1915. Overall, the war drained resources and exposed internal fractures. That same year, 1915, marked the beginning of the Armenian deportations. Under orders from the Committee of Union and Progress, hundreds of thousands of Armenians were forced from their homes. Many perished from starvation, disease, and massacres, events widely recognized today as genocide. The war dragged on. In Arabia, British-backed revolts, led by figures like T.E. Lawrence, undermined Ottoman control. In Mesopotamia, British forces advanced steadily. The empire's resources dwindled, and its multi-ethnic composition frayed under pressure. In 1918, the Ottomans signed the Armistice of Mudros. Effectively ending their participation in World War I. Defeat was total. Allied troops occupied Istanbul, and Ottoman sovereignty collapsed. Mehmet VI, the last sultan, was reduced to a powerless figure under foreign supervision. As Allied powers carved up the empire, Turkish nationalists began to organize under Mustafa Kemal, a former Ottoman officer. In 1919, he launched a resistance movement based in Anatolia, rejecting the Treaty of Sevres and the partition of Ottoman lands. The Turkish War of Independence raged from 1919 to 1923. Nationalist forces fought occupying Greek, British, French, and Armenian armies. Through determination and military skill, the nationalists reclaimed Anatolian territory and expelled foreign forces. In 1922, the Ottoman Sultanate was formally abolished. Mehmet VI fled into exile. A year later, the Republic of Turkey was declared under Mustafa Kemal, now known as Ataturk, father of Turks. The centuries-old empire had vanished, replaced by a secular nationalist state built on its ashes. Thanks for staying with me through the long winding roads of history. Gentle stories like this help us remember that even empires rise and fall with the passing of time, just like waves in the dark. If this quiet journey helped you drift a little closer to rest, feel free to like, subscribe, and return anytime. For now, let the stillness of the night wrap around you, and may your dreams be calm, steady, and kind.
If you made it this far, you're the real one. As always, my friends, stay curious, stay skeptical, and never stop asking questions. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to like, subscribe, and drift back next time for more quiet tales from the shadows of history. For now, I'll leave you with the soft crackle of the campfire. May it guide you gently into rest, and keep your dreams safe and still.